Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first ever Women Tech Makers SSA Spotlight. My name is Onajite Emero Ogo, and I am the Sub-Saharan Africa lead for Women Tech Makers at Google. Women Tech Makers is a global initiative which provides visibility, community, and resources for women in technology to enable them to thrive. We've launched this Women Tech Makers SSA Spotlight to amplify the stories and pathways of women in technology across sub-Saharan Africa. We hope that this series will connect women with economic opportunities in technology by demonstrating specific ways that women can jumpstart and develop their tech careers. Today, the spotlight is on Omolara Adejuwon, who's an amazing Android engineer, and she currently leads the Android team at Kudi, Nigeria. So Omolara will be talking to us about Android development and also sharing her journey of how she built her career as a woman in technology and a super successful Android engineer. Omolara, thank you so much for joining us today. So the spotlight is on you right now.
Hi, Onajite. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. Are we starting
All right.
now?
Yes, we are. So the spotlight is on you. So please share with us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon from where I am. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Omolara Adejuwon, and I'm an Android engineer at Kudi, Nigeria, where we make payments accessible, financial services accessible for citizens, underbanked, unbanked, everybody in general. So today I want to share with you modern Android development. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen now. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So when we say, or rather, when I say Android modern Android development, I mean going down the memory lane, talking about how Android development generally has evolved over the years and where we are in 2020, and how you can benefit from all the changes that have happened since Android started. All right, so let's get straight into it. And I hope that by the end of this session, you would be able to pick one or two things to add to your Android development journey. And also, if you're probably considering just starting, then you would know where to start right now in 2020. Okay. So let's go down the memory lane for a bit. You see that a lot has happened since inception. So in 2007, when Android development started, it started using Java language, using Eclipse. I mean, many people can relate to Eclipse days. And then we had APKs, and then the journey continued. So every year there were lots of improvements on the APIs that are available up till when Android Studio was announced and was released in 2013. And then that went by. Then Kotlin was adopted as official language for building Android applications. And then that went by. Architecture component came around, and then it has eased how developers, build apps and all that. And then for distribution, we have app bundles replacing the typical APKs. And then yeah, we are in 2020. So for Android development, talking about going through this session, I'm going to be breaking these changes down into 4 components, and the first being language. And then I'll touch base on language, then I'll talk a bit about tools, and then I'll talk a bit about the APIs, I mean the changes in all of these components, And then finally, I'll talk about distribution. Okay, so let's talk about language. When Android development started, Java was the choice, right? And then these are the reasons why Java was chosen to be the go-to language for Android development in those days, because there were already lots of Java developers in the market, and then it's Google was riding over on the fact that there were developers already that understood Java, and then there were several tools already in the market, free tools in quotes, that were existing that could make development very, very easy for people. And also, there were lots of libraries that support Java. There were lots of patterns that have been preached, and there are lots of best practices that have been adopted. So it was very easy to choose Java as the go-to language back in the days. And also, Java is very, very robust. It still is, and it's still very much relevant. It's very, very robust. But now in 2020, we have Kotlin being the okay. Sorry, let me see. Okay, so in 2020, we have Kotlin being the official language, and then you might be wondering what happened to Java. Java is still very much relevant in these days, so we are not taking away the benefits of Java. But Kotlin has a lot more to offer. And then, well, it wouldn't be a big deal because Kotlin is also riding on JVM, which is the machine that Java was also sitting on. So it's like you know making Java less verbose in quotes and making it easier for people to adopt Android development. So let's see the things that Kotlin is doing better now in 2020 that is giving that made Google choose it as the official language now. So we see expressiveness and conciseness. So the usual, for example, the usual setters and getters that you write in Java, the long lines that you would write in Java. Now, using data classes, for example, in Kotlin has made it so easy, or rather short, for you to just write your code and focus on the main logic of your application. So we have less boilerplate code. We have the use of extensions, already made extensions for you in Kotlin that has made writing code easy and more concise. Then going further, we have safety. Every developer, or rather every Java developer at some point has experienced null pointer exception. But Kotlin has come to, reduce this occurrence a bit, thereby reducing crashes in production. And then, excuse me, reducing crashes in production. And then it helps to handle the null pointer exception because, because of nullability at language level, you can declare a variable as nullable or non-null at all. So while using, you already know, your ID will definitely inform you that you are making a mistake here at compile time. Another reason why Kotlin has been the go-to language now for most developers is the interoperability. It's so easy to combine Java now in the same code base with Kotlin. So what that means is that I can call Java classes in my Kotlin code, and I can even call Kotlin classes in my Java code. So even if you have a legacy code base, like a code base that you've been maintaining for a while, you don't necessarily have to change your entire code base to Kotlin to adopt Kotlin. You can just start from where you are, that is writing the new code in Kotlin, and everything will still work seamlessly with your Java code base. And then structural concurrency. So in Java there are lots of spaghetti code everywhere, but Kotlin, you can avoid spaghetti if written well anyway. And then coroutines, out of the box support for coroutines and asynchronous programming. So let's analyze these bits, these code snippets in Kotlin. So we see nullability in the system. You see in the method, we have bundle and it was declared as a nullable using the question mark. So this is a way for your IDE to know that, okay, this bundle can be null. And when you are referencing this particular variable, you have to also make sure that you are checking for nullability, because you've already declared it as a nullable variable. So moving on, also we see this use of lambda in your sent on quick listener. So you can just pass a lambda and then it makes your code really, really concise and neat. Imagine this in Java. Imagine what you'll have written like this in Java, which is the usual overriding the click listener interface and then overriding the method and all that. But this is just being done like in few lines. You've already set your on click listener in Android. And also extension functions. So see the capitalize method. It already exists in Kotlin. You don't need to do so much to capitalize your strings in Kotlin. So available extensions already makes developers' lives so easy, and then very, very also easy to adopt. Then template expressions. Say for example, you want to use a variable in a string. Usually in Java, you would use formatters or just concatenate strings here and there. But in Kotlin, you can just slot in whatever variable you are using into the same string without you having to do so much. So, and that's what we call template expressions. Another one like it is the property access syntax for getters and setters. So usually in Java, you would do something like fab dot get background linked list. But here we are doing away with the setters and getters and they just access the property directly. So that's just a little bit of what Kotlin has come to offer and why it's an easy choice for developers these days. I mean, there are a lot more, right? If you check documentation, there are a lot more features, but I mean, time will not permit us. So going to the next component of my talk today, which is tools. So I don't know, if you've been doing Android for a while, you would have probably experienced using Eclipse at some point in your journey. And I won't lie that Eclipse wasn't the best. I personally, though, I didn't have the best experience using Eclipse, considering the fact that I had a very, very small laptop, and then imagine having to run Eclipse and having to run your emulator by the side and all that. So Eclipse wasn't the best choice, wasn't the easiest choice, but at least it was like the only choice in those days. And then different variations of Eclipse made it so easy for people. I mean, made it so difficult for people to adopt. Even for me, at some point, I had to like pause under development till I got a better laptop at that time. But then why was it a choice then? Because it was free, and then many developers were already using it for different other things apart from Android development. So it was so easy for Android to adopt this IDE as the go-to IDE for Android development. So, but then what do we use these days? You'd see that we use Android Studio. So this is like a no-brainer. So Android Studio has evolved also since its launch in 2016. I mean, in 2013. So Android Studio was announced in 2013, and over the years, it has grown to become a very, very robust IDE with full support for Android development. Obviously, it's Android Studio, but it's been built on JetBrains IDE, the typical JetBrains. You are very familiar with JetBrains IDEs like IntelliJ, like PHP Storm and all the likes. So it's been built on JetBrains technology, which is so also very, very easy for people to adopt. And because it's Android Studio, right? It's really, really easy to integrate new APIs these days. So we have support for content layout editor, profilers, navigation editor, motion editor, view binding, and some couple of other stuff that has made Android development really, really easy. So I mean, it's a no-brainer when Google says Android Studio is now the official IDE for Android development. All right, so some of the things that Android Studio offers, we have powerful code refactoring, which means that I mean you can easily find usages, you can remove unused codes, you can rename across your entire project, you can in fact you can convert a Java code to Kotlin. that is a very, very powerful code refactoring tool. Also, it's extensible for future tools. Talk about plugins where people can build plugins on top of that. It's really extensible, and then it's a very familiar UI. So even for new updates, you don't have to look here and there for stuff. Like everything is obvious and very easy to use. So it gives developers a very good experience while using it. And like I said, it's extensible. Like there are several plugins that have been built by individual developers like you and I, even developers from Google, developers from JetBrains. So talk about ADB Wi-Fi, for example, a plugin I use very well. Talk about some other Firebase plugin that has been done. So it's really, really extensive, and any developer can build on top of that to make other people's lives easier. Yeah, so I talked about plugins that are actively being developed. Then tight integration with Kotlin and Gradle. So in those in those days of using Eclipse, you know how it was a bit it was difficult, not even a bit. It was difficult combining Gradle problem, combining Eclipse problem, combining emulators problem into one person. But now it has Amnesty Student has very, very tight integration with Kotlin and Gradle, which is a plus. Then we have lint checks. I mean, in your Android Studio will give you warnings when necessary. You can configure your lint checks. You can do even code completion. You can do all sorts still in Android Studio. And most importantly, integration with existing and new APIs. Even now that there are some APIs that have been announced, it's the new APIs, I mean, that have been announced, they integrate well with Android Studio without you having to do so much. Probably just install a patch and then you are good. Yeah. So let's go further down into APIs. So some of the new APIs that have been rolled out in recent times, we have under Jetpack. Well, we won't be covering the entire Jetpack because it's a lot, but Jetpack came as a result of having to always have all APIs bundled together. So for Jetpack, APIs are now unbundled. You only download or add a dependency that you need to your project without having to always download the bulk of everything. Then you can update a dependency without having to update another dependency. Everything works more seamlessly now and is less headache for developers. So let's see what we have in this. So first we have constraint layouts, and then constraint layouts is like relative layouts plus plus. So you can build layouts by arranging them by constraining one view to the other, and then making sure that they look exactly the way you want them to look. You can see that from this we have this button next constraint to the text view up there, hello first fragment, and then everything just works nicely. It's similar to relative layout, just that it has more rich UI than relative layout. Also, we have motion layout editor in the same IDE and everything. You can drag and drop your layout to give you the particular motion you need, and it's also a subclass of content layout. So it's very, very easy. You can add your transition. It makes animations, little animations here and there, very easy for developers, and everything here is built into your Android Studio. Yeah, life cycle. Almost every developer that started from way back, even now, has at one point or the other interacted with this graph, because every now and then you find yourself referring back to Android life cycles. I mean, you want to know what happens after on create, you want to know what happens after on resume, and how it's destroyed and all that. Even many people cram this graph for job interviews. So it's and most people go back every time to like refresh their memories, because it's quite complicated. It's quite complicated. So this diagram, and that's the flow for life cycle in Android. So yeah, we have the usual on pause, on create, on resume, on start, and all that. that you have to override if you need to do anything in any of these callbacks. But yeah, not anymore in 2020. You do not have to do all this. So Android recognizes that this is a bit too complicated for developers to grab. How about we just make it easy, or make life cycles generally easy for our people? And there we have life cycles, a simplified life cycle, and where you only just so you can declare your fragments and activities as lifecycle owners, and then you can just listen to this by setting an observer on the life cycles. So let's see what this looks like. So a typical small activity will look like this. If you want to go down this route, you set your observer to your life cycle, and then in your observer, you annotate a function by saying, make this function my on start, and then you can do anything you want to do. And I can even listen for the current states of that life cycle. Easy peasy. I mean, you can do away with this massive flow chart here. You don't need it anymore, and then you don't need to cram it for jobs. Win-win. All right. So going further down, we have live data and view models. So live data view models rather store objects that can be observed on your UI. Just for example, you have an activity that has a text view that you want the text to update when something happens, right? You can make your UI listen to changes in your source. Say for example, in your view model, there's something that triggers the updates in text and all that. So you can separate these things while you do your UI logic in your user interface. You handle your data source and every other thing in your view model. Makes life so easy. So view model stores live data objects which can be observed in your UI. So you can pass data from your view model to your UI using live data. So any elements can be registered in the UI, can register as observers in live data changes. So all you just need to do is like call the .observe method on your live data in your UI, and then update the values in your view model. Then everything is just so easy for you without having to do so much. Yeah, and then also your data can, like I explained, your data can also give feedback to your UI, just like I have in this diagram here. So now we have a very tight integration with Room also. So Room is also one of the new libraries. Well, not so new anymore, but wasn't there back in those days. But now Room is the go-to local DB or SQLite DB that we use these days. So, and it also integrates well with view model and live data. You can use Room as a data source. Just you can listen for changes in your DB and pass the changes down to your UI as a logic permits. So this is a typical room interface. You have so you can do your queries, like we have select star from donuts. You can get all. You can also use the already standard queries, the insert, the delete, the updates. So you can read more extensively on Room, but trust me, it's a very easy choice when you want to do anything with database in your application. Yeah. So you can, on top of Room, also you can use paging. So paging is one of the libraries that was also built in Jetpack to make pagination easy. Let's say you want to work with recycler view or list view and you want to handle pagination. So paging is also a go-to library to make this happen, and it's also, you can integrate this easily also with Room, and then obviously view model. So everything works so seamlessly together. The life cycles, the live data, the view model, they are all built to work together. View model, live data are life cycle aware. That is, they work based on the life cycle. If you recall, that I mentioned something about your observers, or rather making your activity life cycle owners. So they work hand in hand with the life cycle you've already declared. So it helps you to avoid leaks. I mean, so one of the common errors in Android development is leaks. So this style or this approach makes you avoid leaks if done properly anyway, and then it makes you update data for inactive UI elements. You can access room from your view model from your live data objects also, and then it separates data from your UI. It also further helps you to operate exception of concern that we preach these days. You can use room with coroutines and flow, and this can only you can only benefit from this if you use Kotlin. So it integrates well with coroutines and Kotlin flow. Yeah, so these are just the benefits of using flow and coroutines. It keeps database access off UI thread. I know that at some points you've probably made a mistake of accessing your DB from your main thread. So definitely an exception will occur, but because Room has made it possible so that you can keep your database access off your UI thread. And then, yeah, architecture components are also very, very RX Java friendly if you choose to use RX Java. I know that's not a new term these days, so I know that many people are already familiar with RX Java. Okay, so let's talk about navigation component. So navigation component is relatively new, and it's another way for you to, create applications. Not another way, but another style of you creating applications now. Like you can easily you drawing graphs on how you want your transition to look like in Android. Let's say for example, you want to move from one activity to the other without you having to do so much and all that. You can easily say you can link screens together, you can link fragments together, you can link views together in your editor. So let's see what this looks like. So we have this usual basic activity, and you want to link from first fragment to the other fragment. All you just need to do in your Android Studio is just to draw this link, and then link it to the second fragment. Let's see what the code looks like. So this is what the code looks like if you want to actually do this in your XML. You declare a navigation, and then you declare the fragment, and then you tell second fragment to link to first fragment by declaring the action, declaring the action. Then you can supply the destination. Then easily in your Java, you can just say, you know what? Let me show you. You can just say navigate to what are declared to be this fragment here. Yeah. You can pass data from, so usually when you use the typical fragment in Android, you have to like pass bundles around, put in arguments and all that. But if you use navigation components, it's so easy because you can declare your arguments in your XML. You can declare the type of your arguments in XML. And when you are doing this, so let's assume that this fragment takes in some arguments. It allows you pass in the arguments right from this find controller dot navigate method. So you don't have to do the usual on create new instance or new instance, the usual terms we use. So navigating between fragments, for example, is a lot easier. So you can pass data between destinations. Then you can easily perform the single activity UI with easier fragment management. I mean, fragment has always been one of the headaches of Android developers, if you can relate. But navigation components has come to actually ease this fragment management, and I've used it, and to be honest, it's easier that way for me. So it's a welcome update. All right, so let's do a bit of recap. So modern days, so we have new releases frequently, and then new APIs in development. We have Jetpack Compose these days. There's still some things in development that are not stable at the moment, but it's worth giving a try. We have Jetpack Compose. I'm very sure if you are very close to the Android community, you would have heard this flying here and there. We have Hilt also, which is for dependency injection. We have update to paging library that I mentioned earlier that makes your pagination easy. So we have paging 3 coming soon. So for the final component, let's talk about distribution, which is just a way you distribute your app or the way your apps get to your users. So before we have APKs, though we still do, we have APKs, and then APKs are just, for lack of a better word, they're just like zip files, that when you unzip, you see all the folders of the application. So it's like a zip file for your convenience. Then you have, it's easily very, very, very large, because when you have more configurations, you see that your file size, your APK size becomes so large. And then what Google has done to help this situation is by introducing Android app bundle. So this particular type of distribution of, this particular type of format is very, very dear to my heart, because I saw the immediate changes when we started adopting Android app bundles in our application. So let me just do a deep dive of what this is about. But for a fact, we see that 3 in 10 phones have memories less than 1 gig on their devices. Many, especially now in this part of the world where we have data issues, we have storage issues, and all that. So many phones out there actually have less than 1 gig of internal free space. And then imagine when your users on this same free space, your users having your application, their own media files, that is photos, videos, chats, and all that, and then other applications. So imagine having all those things on a 1 gig storage space. So that has been a problem. I know that at some point you have probably experienced this common error from Play Store that tells you that you don't have enough space on your phone, thereby you can't install an application. So almost everybody at some point has experienced this, and this is just because there's no space. All right, so excuse me. So obviously, when you are hit with this kind of error from Play Store, the only thing you can do is probably go to uninstall some apps on your phone, or clear some redundant images, photos, chats, and media on your phone, or you just don't install the app anymore. So this particular storage issue has led to uninstalls for several applications, because users will definitely prefer their storage space over any app, especially if you are not providing value to them at that time. So now we see that the larger the APK, the more likely it is to actually have a failed installation. Because imagine someone wants to install your app, and then it tells them that probably they have, let's say you have an APK file that is around 50 MB, and then for a user that's probably managing data and all that, you see that they probably won't install your app, because they don't want to waste their data, or for several other reasons. So the larger your APK, the less successful your installation rate will be. And then Google also released this data that says smaller download obviously leads to increased installations. So this is what Android does. So usually for typical APKs, we have if you have an APK right now, and then you have various versions of devices, so the same APK is installed on all these devices, not considering who needs what, or why are you installing. So let's for example, you have 2 devices, one high-end device and one low-end device. If you install the typical APK, the same APK is downloaded on both devices. So, and then most times you find out that these devices need different configurations to work, but then they have even the configurations that they don't need. So what Android app bundles is doing is that so Play Store helps you analyze these devices and lets you select the things that are necessary for the successful installation of your app on these people's devices. So using this animation on the screen, we see that for legacy APK, everything gets installed on the device, even for the things that are not needed. Like I said, but for example, all the languages that your app supports, all the densities for all the screens, all the screen densities that your app needs, and for successful operation. But for other Android app bundles, you only select the things that are necessary. Let's say, for example, for a phone's configuration that is XXX HTTP high and or ARM 64 bits and language English, It only picks those folders and installs and leaves the rest of the necessary folders behind. So this is a way that Play Store actually helps you to manage people's data, manage people's storage devices. I mean, makes you more concerned about your users' experience when downloading your, because experience matters right from downloading and then to the actual usage of the apps. So like I said, this is just a way that Google selects. So let's say, for example, you have this bunch of stuff on the right. We have the circles, square, and triangle. And then for Android device one, it only picks the circle, the triangle, and the square on the app. Android 2 might not need the configuration that Android 1 has used. Do you get? So that means you can easily strip off the configurations or the folders in quotes that are not necessary for the particular device. So it's, in short, is platform dependent, it's device dependent. So what gets downloaded at the end of the day to your user's device is what is actually needed for that device. Yeah. So and this, when people have adopted, so many people have adopted this publishing format already, that is AAB, ignoring the APKs. So we have over 500,000 apps in production already using Android app bundles, and 35% of active installs right now, the apps use Android app bundles. And then for games also, 47% of top apps and games in Play Store use Android app bundles, and it's proven to be successful. Even in my company, we use Android app bundles, and easily it's we've seen how it affects our um, file size at the end of the day. Yeah, so it's helps to save at least almost 20% of download size. So just as a recap, we've talked about under development, we talked about language, we talked about how language has evolved over the years, coming from Java now to Kotlin, and how you can benefit from the cool features of Kotlin. And then we talked about tools from the days of Eclipse to how robust Android Studio has become and what to look out for in the coming months or coming weeks or years of Android Studio. Then we talked about APIs, we talked about the things that have made development easy right now. Talked about Jetpack Compose, content layout, navigation editor, talk about room, live data, view model, and the likes. You can definitely check more right now. I mean, on developers, on Android's documentation, I mean. Then we talked about distribution, and that's comparing APK and Android app bundles. Yeah, so that's about that for things that on how things have changed since inception, since the beginning of Android development to what we have right now in 2020. Then you're probably wondering, if you are like, as a beginner, you want to probably start Android development now. You are wondering where to start from, because I know that it can be a bit overwhelming actually trying to figure out where to start this journey if you want to start today. So to simplify that, I would recommend that you start with Kotlin, learn Kotlin. Like there are several code labs online. There are several code labs online. Even Google has one already. You can use the Kotlin documentation. They're actually very, very easy to grab. So you can start from there, understanding Kotlin. Then yeah, you can start from Jet. You can also learn Jetpack and picking view models, live data, and room of Jetpack library. These three things are almost enough for you to start this Android development journey without having to worry so much about the other things. But then as you progress in these ones, you now understand that these two things you should pick from there and there. So it makes development, it makes learning really, I've streamlined these things, the things you need to learn to start awesomely on this journey to these few things, and then you can focus on these ones. And as you progress, I mean, it becomes easier for you to grasp all these things. Then also tools, understand how your Android Studio works, and things you can benefit in Android Studio. And I hope that if you follow these things, you are going to have a very soft landing to Android development. And with this, I have come to the end of my presentation. So I'm taking questions now, if you have any. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Omolara. That was really, really great. Thank you so much for sharing, all of this knowledge with us. But before we go into the proper Q&A,
Yeah.
we'd like to circle back and learn a little bit more about your journey.
Okay.
So there are a lot of women and girls who may have never ever thought about starting a career in tech. So we wanted to ask you, can you tell us a bit about what inspired you to, start your own career in technology?
Okay. So what inspired me would be well, I'd always liked mathematics. So though it wasn't an easy choice, well, maybe easy because I hated biology. So the only the only option for me was to move into engineering. But then what really sold me out was when I was in university. I had some colleagues of mine build an application, and I was curious enough to find out how this was built and how I could also do the same. So they organized a class to teach me, and then I was in 200 level, and that was it. And that was how my software engineering journey started, and it's been bliss ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. That is really, really cool that you had friends that, were so willing to teach you and take you under their wing.
Yeah.
Um, but why did you choose to be an Android developer specifically? What is it about that stuck out to you? There's so many different elements and different types of technology out there. So why did you choose to focus on Android?
Okay, so for me, it was the availability of devices at that time. So, and then let's also say opportunities. So, my first encounter with building actual Android app was when I had my IT in university. So, IT, I didn't have so much choice. So I was placed on a team that was building the Android app for our company then. So it was like
Okay.
the opportunity met readiness, so to say. So, so I mean, I was curious. I learned several frameworks, cross-platform frameworks to make Android development easy. But then I came across native, and since then, and because yeah, mobile devices are everywhere and they're not going anywhere anytime soon, right?
Sure.
So it's like a ready market for me to key into. Because what usually determines my move is the market. I want my skills to be relatable. I want my skills to be
Mm,
marketable also in the market. And then mobile devices. So also that also inspired at some point in my journey. I'd also done iOS development, and it's just also because mobile phones are here to stay. So I wanted to
yeah.
explore all the possible opportunities, Android, iOS. But now, yeah, I think I'm stuck with Android development.
That's great. And can you just say what IT is for anybody who's watching that might not know what that means?
What?
You said you were doing your IT. Do you just want to explain
Okay,
what that is
internship.
for
Yeah,
anybody?
so usually in Nigerian schools, when you're in any engineering field, you go for a compulsory 6 months internship program out of school. So that was that period I had my interests keyed in appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, I mean, over the course of your journey, it probably hasn't been very easy. You've probably struggled. It hasn't been super easy for you to become this successful, especially in a male-dominated industry. So, would you mind telling us about some of the challenges you faced, if any, being a woman in tech and how you've overcome them?
Oh, well, talking about challenges, I know that challenges have been different for different people. So, but for me, I won't say I've encountered a lot of challenges, well, thankfully, because I know what my other female colleagues out there have experienced. But for me, one of the challenges I've experienced was probably having to prove myself twice as hard as a male colleague would do. So I had an encounter, one of the jobs I've had to work before now, I had to prove myself for a month that I deserved the salary that the role deserved. So I had to, so I had to like they were not sure that I could do the job because I was a lady, right? So after a month, we had to revisit the conversation, and then well, thankfully, I was able to like prove myself to them. So the challenge just be that for me personally, having to work twice as hard as a male colleague just to show relevance in that field. And then another challenge would be that having to be most times the only woman. Can you hear me? Having to be the only woman in a team most times, and I mean, But other than that, I think I'm good now. Hello. I think internet is quite messy. Okay, so while we wait for my host to come back, I think she has internet problems. So I was talking about the challenges I've faced. So just to share a bit about that simple experience I said I had, that I had to prove myself twice as hard as my female colleague, as my male colleague. So we had this task, right, to perform or to do at work. And then because I mean I was new to the job and all that, but there was this doubt already in my employer's face that oh this girl can actually do this thing. But I mean let's just try her. And then they were actually paying the other guy more than they were paying me at that time. And then when I got to know, I questioned it, and they were like, it was because they weren't sure of how I was going to perform. So after a month, they had to revisit the salary discussion because I had proven myself. But that's kind of world that ladies are right now at the moment, having to like prove themselves twice as they would if they were male. Do you understand? So, but to me, I think now that many people are sharing stories here and there, I mean, we have more women in tech now these days, and then many people now share stories. So it's easier for people to actually know that women are actually here to stay. So it's just accepting the fact that once you have the skills and you have the structured pay scale or structured pay grade, you should give everybody what they deserve and what they are worth. Welcome back, GK.
Thank you. Sorry, Nigerian internet.
I forgot.
That's great. That's great. Final question from us.
Okay.
So here at Women Makers, we are focused on creating a world where all women can thrive in tech. And today the spotlight is on you. So based on your experience, what do you think is needed to make this happen, to make all women thrive in tech?
Okay, so I would say that women should share their stories more. I mean, imagine if myself, someone like you, and every other person we have right now in Nigeria and beyond share their story one day at a time. It can encourage more women to know that, okay, while it might not be easy, I can do it. Do you understand? So having your story out there, both the failures and the success stories, the challenges, everything, it's part of what has made you. So you can't shy away from those facts. So if more people can read your stories, no matter how challenging, how easy also that you are probably found it, more people will be encouraged to actually, come on this journey with us. So another thing I would also say is that more women should also try and apply for those jobs that you think you don't deserve. Because I mean,
Mm,
I'm currently in a place where I
yeah.
get to hire for roles right now, and most times when we put out job um, job vacancies, we have, let's say, only 2 out of 20 people are females. So now, if we, and that's not to say that we don't have female talent in Nigeria or anywhere else. It's just that probably you feel you are not up to what is required. So I would say
Mm,
that more women should take the job offers, apply for those jobs, negotiate very well. I mean, I've been at the fair side of negotiation, and it's been a struggle up to this time. So negotiate well up to what you think you should be paid, and then yeah, talk about your stories and all that. Then also we want more women to be in senior positions. Well, merited actually to be in more senior positions, because I heard the story of a colleague of mine that she was pitching an idea to somebody sometime a while back, and then there was just one woman on the panel, and she was the only person that could relate with her solution. Every other people, every other person on the panel, they couldn't relate with what she was pitching, and then she lost the pitch because only one person. But imagine we had, let's say 80% of the people on the, or maybe 50-50 of people on the panel as female, right? Many people would be able to relate to what she has built and all that. So if you have more women in senior positions or decision making positions, it's going to be a lot easier for more women also coming up to relate, and then to see people that, okay, these people are doing it. Definitely I can also do it. Also for companies, from companies' perspective, companies should also go extra mile and be more intentional about having ladies fill some roles in the company, right? Because we can't do it alone, no matter how how fine women technical does it. Let's bring more women into tech. Let's teach them. Let's coach them. Let's mentor them. If companies are not ready to actually give these women
Yeah.
chances to prove themselves, it's like waste of time. So from an individual perspective, I will choose to share my story. Everybody chooses to share their stories. Also, from company's perspective, let companies also give roles and give room for women to grow in companies. Well, merited in companies, and then like being intentional. I see many companies now bringing up diversity team or department where they bring in women or probably people that are underrepresented. So companies can be more intentional about these things. Like go for the women that are doing great, that are proving themselves to deserve the particular role, and pay them what they are due.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Omolara. Okay, so let's go to a couple of questions from our viewers. So we have one from Ratiba. So she's asking, or he's asking, hi, what do you think about TikTok application development?
Wow, what do I think about it? What part of development do you want to know? That's a very wide or probably vague question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I might not be able to answer that. I
Yeah,
need more.
Ratiba, could you be more specific about what about the app would you like Omolara to comment on? To see if there are any more questions in the chat. Okay, great. All right, let's see if Ratiba comes back. If not, I guess we can wrap up. We're almost at time, so if you have any questions for Omolara, here's your shot. We could also, let's see, we could also display, if you'd like to connect with Omolara later on, you could please follow her on Twitter. She's at, or let you say it properly so that I don't mess it up.
Okay. My handle is at underscore Larry Crown. LARIKRAUN. Larry Crown. Just that.
Awesome. So please follow Lara on Twitter at underscore Larry Crown. And if you'd like to learn more about Women Tech Makers, please check out our website, womentechmakers.com, or follow any of our social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook. You can join a community near you, or you can also become a Women Tech Makers ambassador. All right. So thank you, everybody. This has been great. Thank you so much, Omolara, for joining us and sharing your amazing knowledge. I'm sure everybody here has learned a lot about Android development and is ready to take theirs to the next level.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.